They listened to their daughter and sister's final seconds, while the killer looked on unfazed.
I just want him to leave before it escalates. I want you to leave. No, you don't leave. I'm not leaving. Yeah, you need to leave.
You hear it? 9 shots, rapid fire, and then less than a half second, a second shot, or the 10th shot, which is he places in victim's own hand.
Ebony Byrom never imagined the fatal implications of the argument she was having with her husband. Once the situation started to get out of hand, Ebony called the police to prevent the worst from happening. While the receiver of the call tried to help, Ebony continued to insist that her husband leave because on top of everything else, her son was present at the scene.
I want you to leave. No, you'll come back another day, another time.
The tense minutes continued to pass, and 911 asked Ebony if there were any weapons in the house.
Any weapons in the home?
It is.
It was all going on while Ebony's son was in the other room.
I want you to leave. No, you don't leave. I'm not leaving. Yeah, you need to leave. No, I'm not. Because I have a child here.
As the killer was on trial, the recording of Ebony's last phone call generated a painful response from her family, but the reaction of the person responsible for her death couldn't have been colder.
He had a dispute. He wanted to get all his stuff and leave in the middle of the night. We can do this another time.
Ebony Byrom's murder was one of the 1,809 femicides that occurred in the United States in 2016 and is included in figures indicating a 26% increase in femicides by firearm between 2010 and 2017 in that country. However, Ebony is much more than a statistic, and her case shocked everyone in attendance on the day it was presented.
I just want him to leave, but he's not leaving.
The young woman's last words were to the 911 receiver, and her family had to hear them in court.
Tears in court as a 911 call is played to the public. It's the last moments of Ebony Byrom's life.
And although emotions were understandably running high, it was her killer who showed no emotion at all when he heard his wife's voice just before he murdered her. The call between the young woman and the police was interrupted by the 9 bullets Hal Byrom fired at Ebony, taking her life and causing yet another femicide in the United States. After that, the man tried to shoot himself in the head, an injury from which he survived without major problems. However, it wasn't just his cold response upon reliving the last seconds of his wife's life after listening to the recording that upset family members and the judge. Hal Byrom has been uncooperative in the investigation and even refused to attend the hearings.
Him not coming today is just another way of him just controlling the situation.
At one of the hearings, Ebony's family was able to address her killer.
I know that you didn't want to show up because you know that you hurt my family, and I know that you see that you hurt my family really badly. You broke us in many ways that we'll never be able to repair.
Ebony's irreparable absence finally received justice. Hal Byrom was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. What the indifferent killer ignores is that in addition to the profound grief of her sisters and family, he ruined the life of the young woman's son.
Family members say he's in Texas with his father, but he hasn't been the same since this happened.
It was the then 16-year-old who followed up the 911 call after seeing his mother's lifeless body in the living room of the home.
Bueno, ante la ocurrencia de un delito de violencia al interior de una pareja, ya sea de una violencia contra una mujer o contra un varón en un contexto muchas veces de violencia intrafamiliar, es tremendamente importante que se realice la denuncia lo antes posible. Lo normal es que este tipo de personas que ejercen este tipo de acciones ya lo hayan hecho antes, lo hagan y lo perpetúen en el tiempo. Es importante realizar este tipo de denuncias porque es posible detener a tiempo un caso de que podría escalar incluso hasta la muerte de la víctima.
Ebony Byrom was just 38 years old when she became a victim of gender-based violence. Her sisters also shared some words for women in court, saying, "Pay attention to who you bring home. Pay attention to who you love." However, even though the phrase came from a good place, the truth is that aggressors don't always give clear signs that give them away, and ultimately, for a woman to die at the hands of her partner is simply wrong.